7 жаста Арыстан бабам қылдым салам. Хақ Мұстафа аманатын қылды аңғам.
I met Arystan Bab when I was 7 years old. He bestowed upon me the Prophet's entrustment. I met 1,001 zikrs at that moment. I resisted my passion and prayed to God instead. He looked at me, patted my head, and offered me a date fruit. That's when he passed away. He said goodbye to the world. After seeing the school, I was filled with excitement. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers. As part of the In the Footsteps of Our Ancestors initiative, we are now in Turkestan. Dosai Kenzhetai, a mentor, teacher, and doctor of philosophy and theology, is our guest for this conversation. We are going to talk about our ancestor, Arystan Bab. Today, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Бабамыз жайлы тереңірек.
With the goal of learning more important details about our ancestor, we arrived in Turkestan.
We initially associate Arystan Bab with Khoja Ahmet Yassawi in our historical consciousness. The reason for this is that in the religious understanding of Kazakhs and indeed all Turkic peoples, the Tariqa period or Tasawwuf began with Khoja Ahmet Yassawi. When looking for an origin for it, the first question that springs to mind is who Yassawi's teacher was. Arystan Bab will then advance first. For generations, Diwan-i-Hikmet has been rejuvenating our memories. Arystan Bab is mentioned for the first time in Khoja Ahmet Yassawi's version of Diwan-i-Hikmet. Secondly, there is a legend about the date fruit. It has a direct connection to Arystan Bab as well. As researchers, we now regard the 12th century as the age in which our ancestor Khoja Ahmet Yassawi lived. It is currently thought that Arystan Bab also lived and passed away in the 12th century. Next, we looked for this person's historical origins. However, if you examine every treatise produced during the Middle Ages and beyond, they are all related to Yassawi. However, we come across some legend-filled information. The opening of Ali Shernavai's book, Nasaim ul-Muhabbat, has similar information. Arystan Bab is also mentioned in Hazini's Jawahir ul-Abra book. For instance, information on Arystan Bab was also supplied by the well-known Musa Sayrami. Arystan Bab is mentioned in Bakirgani's work Bakirgan Kitabi as well.
Бұл жаңағы біздің Әл-Шернауайдың Насаим ул-Махаббасында да солай тұр. Хазинидің Жавахир ул-Абрар деген еңбегі бар. Онда да Арыстан Баб туралы айтылады. Мысалға Мұса Сайрами атақты. Ол да Арыстан Баб туралы мәлімет береді.
However, this information is insufficient for defining his personality. The researchers then present many variants. There is a saying that says the truth lies behind legends. In truth, it cannot be considered a legend. The legend itself provides the etymology of the truth, which holds the highest regard in human thought. Ideally, it ought to be related as well. And to reach the origins, we now require the assistance of data and factual science. And how many centuries have gone by since those who first told us these facts? People, however, should leave behind a legacy. The issue remains the same. Data, documents, and materials should all be present. We examine recent works in search of such articles. However, the knowledge and awareness of history that exists now is the most potent aspect of history.
Сондай қағаздар іздегенде жаңағы еңбектерді қарап жатырмыз. Бірақ ең қуатты тарих бұл бүгінде өмір сүріп жатқан тарих түсінігі, тарих санасы. Бізде Арыстан Баб тірі ол. Тарихи санамызда әлі күнге Яссауимен байланыстырып айтады.
We argue that Arystan Bab is still alive and tied to Yassawi in our historical consciousness. This is Khoja Ahmet Yassawi's tomb. We call it Asitani Saadet. The pilgrimage, on the other hand, is extremely significant to us. The Asitani Saadet phenomena is the second one. Khoja Ahmet Yassawi is referred to as the capital of happiness, because Asitane means gateway to the truth. Saints stand at the entrance of these gates that lead to the truth. This perception is known as Asitane. Yes, Khoja Ahmet Yassawi is the first saint among the Turkic peoples. And if he was said to be saint of saints, Arystan Bab was the one who taught him.
Yes, he was Bab of the Babs.
Arystan Bab. Енді қарасаңыз Arystan Bab.
There are currently many mausoleums of Arystan Bab located in various locations if you search around. There are 2 locations in Kazakhstan, 2 in Kyrgyzstan, and 1 in Kashgar. Thus, Arystan Bab's tomb is said to be located in 4 or 5 different locations. What does this mean? This may be said by some with a Western perspective. Whoa, that's not true. Here, we consider the key aspects of our religious understanding, particularly cultivation. Sofra Tutmak is a term that appears in our nasab name in Islam, the Sofra Tutmak, opening the Islam.
You said Sofra Tutmak.
Сосын ислам ашу деген мәселе бар. Біздегі насапнамалардағы деректерде Khoja Ahmet Yassawi'дің бүкіл әулеті бұл далаға ислам аша келген.
Yes, Tutmak. That is how we come to the notion of opening the Islam. The information that we have in Nasab name indicates that Khoja Ahmet Yassawi'S entire family came to this area in order to open or propagate Islam. The phrase opening Islam originates from the Turkic language of that era. It's Fatih. We have the Fatiha Surah in the Quran. The term Fatih then refers to an appeal to Islam. That's how the term came to us.
Дәстүрі Arystan Bab'пенен байланыстырылады. Бізге Sofra тұтуды үйреткен Arystan Bab деп аталады.
The term Sofra in Arabic means table, and if in Turkic language it is referred to as a regular dining table, although it means a table that holds truth and knowledge. In this case, the main tradition of hosting such a table is linked to Arystan Bab. That is the first version. The second one is about the date. The date fruit is connected to nubuah, and in Islam there is a category called vilayat. As per nubuah, there were 124,000 prophets, with our prophet Khatm al-Anbiya being the last one. And the wilayat continues onward. Wali Satullah, al-Anbiyam, and al-Awliyah are some of the Quranic references to it.
Sonda Sofra Tutmak дәстүрін біз Arystan Bab'пенен байланыстырып жатырмыз. Ол не деген сөз? Ол исламның
Ibn Arabi, for instance, provides a very clear explanation of this in his book Al-Futuhat al-Makkiyah, because the psychotechnical aspects and nature of the interaction between God and man are inseparable. As an illustration, consider our 5 daily prayers. Then we link the Sofra Tutmak tradition to Arystan Bab. What does it mean? There are 5 centuries that preceded Yassawi or the expansion of Islam, and it was at the Battle of Atla in 751 that we first became familiar with the Islamic world. If you ask me what occurred there, the Karluks and Arabs joined forces to fight the Qin dynasty of China. From 751 until the present, we have learned about and adopted Islamic civilization, culture, and religion. There was not another conflict, Chinese invasion, or Chinese expansion into this area after that time. Why? It is appropriate to claim that it is an Islamic virtue. Firstly, dates are a symbol of Islam. There is a second aspect. In the concept of tasawwuf, Kazakhs are using words like tabaruk or tiberik. Tiberik does really mean blessing. The most fortunate individual in human history, including Islamic history, is none other than our Prophet. Blessings are given by God to anyone He pleases. Our final prophet in this line of prophets serves as a measure for those whom He likes. Then, in tasawwuf, the idea of carrying on along this route is regarded as tariqat. When it comes to the tariqat's origins, our prophet had 4 followers. We call them the 4 caliphs: Hazrat Abu Bakr, Hazrat Omar, Hazrat Uthman, and Hazrat Ali. And now all of Islam's tasawwuf tariqas through these 4 pathways lead directly to our prophet. This is due to the fact that, according to our way of thinking and the distinctiveness of Islamic religious understanding, the Prophet receives God's blessings, which then passes on to the four Shariahs. It is then passed down to tariqats and saints who propagate it across Islam. That is symbolized by the date. Indeed, you can look at facts about Arystan Bab. For instance, if you travel to Jalalabad, Osh in Kyrgyzstan.
Yes, that's it. Reportedly, it was designed to resemble the tomb in Otrar.
жасалған. Одан кейін оның бір ерекшелігі екі таудың ортасына таудың ол биіктеп шығып жатқан жеріне салынғанда екі таудың ортасы қалың орман.
It was deliberately built to be similar. Located between two mountains where they rise is one of its characteristics.
Ол нені мағынаны білдіреді? Пайғамбарымыздың ілімінің бүкіл құнарын, құндылығын алып келді деген символика ғой, көрдіңіз бе?
There is a dense forest between two mountains. This is what people are saying about the forest. It is said that Arystan Bab arrived here and brought all the plant seeds.
Технологиясын үйреткен деп айтады. Ал енді тура осыны Салмани Фарсименен идентификация жасайды. Салмани Фарси қарасаңыз, анау Ухуд соғысында.
What does it mean? It symbolizes that he brought all the virtues and values of the teachings of our Prophet. Did you see it? And those plants are being compared to it. Another issue is that the technology and methods for cultivating these plants were revealed to our Prophet. And for just this reason he is identified as Salman al-Farisi. Following the Battle of Uhud, Salman al-Farisi proposed digging a trench in the Battle of the Trench.
Yes, which is also known as the Battle of Khandaq.
He instructed them to dig a trench at the Battle of Khandaq. As a result, he converted to Islam, assisted our Prophet, and provided guidance. Subsequently, it demonstrates the Arab, Ajam non-Arabs, and Atrak Turks unity that has persisted since the Companions' era during the time of our Prophet. He was on the one hand a Tajik Farsi.
Arystan Bab and Salmen al-Farisi are claimed to be one and the same person.
Құжаттарында солай көрсетіледі. Арыстан Бабтың олай көрсетілетін себебі.
Yes, this was stated in Shia documents. It is because of Rabghuzi's Qisas al-Anbiya that Arystan Bab was depicted in that way. In this book, Rabghuzi wrote about the prophets who lived for 4 centuries. He recognizes Arystan Bab as the shadow of the prophet. Arystan Bab is referred to as Nastur ar-Rumi in another text. Rumi is the name of a region in modern Anatolia. Hence he was depicted as an Ottoman religious teacher. However, the word Nastur corresponds to Nestorian, which means Christian. However, he lived for 4 centuries. He then studied the 33 religions, finally accepting Islam as the last one. He handed our Prophet his hand after accepting Islam. To him he swore. Our Prophet assigned him a duty there. He gave Turks the task of converting to religion. And Ahmet Yassawi, also known as Khoja Ahmet Yassawi, was the one to whom he entrusted his work. That is according to legends. Why am I stating this? Do you realize that all of these myths are cultural norms, values and knowledge that have been assimilated into the Islamization of this area? As a result, when we examine Arystan Bab's life narrative from the perspective of modern historical science, we are still unsure about his actual birth year and century of life. However, legends tell us that he was the teacher of Khoja Ahmet Yassawi.
Аңыздағы таным бойынша Khoja Ahmet Yassawi'дің ұстазы екендігін білеміз. Бірақ насапнамаларда мынандай бір мәселе бар. Арыстан Баб.
However, when we look at the genealogies, we encounter this issue. Arystan Bab had a son named Mansur Ata. Mansur Ata was Khoja Ahmet Yassawi's first student. From this perspective, the legend is real, but we still need to investigate it. We've been discussing events since the year 751. However, the Yassawi era and the 8th century are separated by 4 centuries.
4 ғасырдағы Сасаниттер мемлекеті бар ол жерде. Алдында Ишидиттер болған, Тулуниттер болған.
During these 4 centuries, the Sassanid state existed. The Tulunids and Ishidids stood before them. The Karakhanid state was the next. Following the Karakhanids came the Seljuks and Khwarezm Shahs, then the Golden Horde. And thus Yassawi lived throughout the Karakhanid period, which was also the Karakhanid states era. We haven't really studied our history of that time period for obvious reasons. The Soviet Union formerly had an atheistic ideology and a government. We were unable to research our own history. We were only permitted to learn our history from the times of the Kazakh Khanate. In particular, our entire Islamic spiritual history had been restricted. You may find out that this area was formerly known as the Farab region.
You mean this region, or?
The whole territory between the intersection of the Alatau and Karatau mountains and the Aral Sea was known as the Farab region. The data indicates that there were 56 cities in this area, and during Soviet authority, the facts were buried, and Otrar was changed to Wasij, an ancient medieval name. When I read Arabic, I wonder if it derives from the word Wasaja, which means Oghuz. Some manuscripts may have mistakes. If Wasij was a Turkic city, then it has no etymological meaning. Perhaps it's a purposeful deception, because you will have power if the names, contents, and meanings align with your history. I believe it was written improperly in order to damage our power and prevent linking our minds to these things. However, I interpret this term as Oghuz. The Sirdarya was once known as the Oghuz River. Greek writers referred to it as Transoxania. The word trans refers to the opposite side, while ox refers to Oghuz. Sirdarya was known as Oghuz. The other bank of the Oghuz River was known as Transoxania here. Let's not go off topic. Thus, some people refer to Farab as Otrar. However, this is incorrect. Indeed, we now contest it. Undying Stars is one of the works of the late Absattar Haji Dirbisaliyev. Absattar Haji wrote about the Farabi people in our region, about 38 or 40. Take a look at those Farabis' names now. Al-Farabi at-Turki, Al-Isfijabi at-Turki, Al-Kardari at-Turki, Al-Signagi, Al-Jandi, and so forth are a few examples. They were all Farabi, though. The fact that Ibn Kathir's book mentions 56 cities indicates that it is close to being accurate. Let's return to Arystan Bab now.
Does this mean that Arystan Bab was also a Farabi?
Yes, he was a Farabi as well. We can call him Farabi. Why am I saying it now? Do you know? There was a great Orientalist and explorer called Adam Mes. He wrote a book called Renaissance of Islam. In this book, he writes that the Renaissance of Islam took place in Farab. He made a list of faqih of the Sassanid period who lived in this region, that is, the 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries, 3 centuries. 370 faqihs come from this city. Faqihs are academics and scholars in today's language, and they live around 500 risalas behind. There are lists of 500 treatises. We were only able to include 5 of them in the Cultural Heritage Program. Can you figure out why? Because there are no experts, no one knows how to read 9th century risalas.
Тізімдері бар бізде. Неге білесің бе? Себебі 9-шы ғасырдағы рисаланы оқитын маман жоқ.
There are still 495 of them to be read.
Yes, but no expert is capable of reading these texts. Regarding the query of how he managed to read 5 of them, there is a concept known as sharh, which means explanation. Al-Hidayah, written by al-Marghinani, contains many sharhs. Similarly, Qadi Baidawi and al-Isfijabi left behind plenty of documents. By comparing the manuscripts from the 9th century with the sharhs from subsequent centuries, we were able to read the contents of just 5. We are also unable to read in graphics if we decide to read them this way. As you can see, there is no expert, meaning that we are unable to fully comprehend the legacy left by our forefathers. In the same way, Arystan Bab's personality becomes an important topic.
Are there any manuscripts left for our ancestor, Arystan Bab?
In fact, there should be manuscripts, because nothing comes from the barren soil. While we're discussing this place, the Arabs themselves acknowledge this. Yes, there are 3 layers in Islamic civilization. Ajam, Atrak, and Arab. Education is that civilization's primary vanguard. Transoceania is where Islamic education originated. This is where it all begins, regardless of whether you study fiqh, hadith, tafsir, history, philosophy, or tasawwuf. They genuinely acknowledge it. For instance, the renowned hadith author Sahih al-Bukhari came from this area.
Осы өлкеден шықты.
Атақты хадисші мысалы.
Other examples include Imam Muslim. There's a Quran. What more can we ask for? However, consider this. Who was the first Quranic mufassir or commentator? Prophet. To find out what the Prophet stated in the passages in the Quran, you will gather hadith. This is something we must do. What did the first person say when he explained each Quranic verse? It is an outstanding piece of information to collect. You establish a standard and a guideline. You designate a category, such as tasnif. It was done by Bukharis. They didn't merely copy the data, they assessed the information. Who is the source of that information? What do his time's neighbors, spouses, kids, relatives, and nephews say about that person? Searching for this. By the norms of modern science, for instance, anthropology has not advanced to that point. Have you noticed? A sentence is one piece of information. It is acknowledged by American scientists that they acquired the experience of measuring, classifying, distinguishing, evaluating, contrasting, and drawing parallels between one hadith from us. We completely forgot about it. We talk automatically without thinking. We tell this hadith and that is all. Still, it's an amazing science. It was done by our forefathers. Not to mention the aforementioned 370 academics, all of them were at Turkey. Who is Sibawayh? He was a famous linguist.
Атақшы тілші.
The father of Arabic grammar.
Тілдеріңді менен үйреніңдер деп атыр.
Indeed. Hey, Arabs, you should come study your language from me, he said. Consider ilm al-lugha, the classification of subject, predicate, objective, complement, adverbial, and modifier as they exist now was crafted by him. Following it, throughout the Mutazila era, logic started to evolve. Why was logic required? For comparison, it was essential. Why was logic required? Every verse in the Quran was named for accuracy, or fasaha. It makes sense to pay attention to which word is an objective complement and which one is a modifier in order to comprehend and distinguish the meaning being expressed by the word. It was revealed by Sibawayh. As a result, we are unable to continue without interpreting the Quran using tafsir science. Unfortunately, we have similar issues with Arystan Bab. But today it is established that he was Khoja Ahmet Yassawi'S teacher. Stay the night at the Arystan Bab. Next, pray and ask me for an aid. Khoja Ahmet Yassawi advised.
Do these words come from Khoja Ahmet Yassawi, our ancestor?
That's what the legend said. There are around 500 legends related to Khoja Ahmet Yassawi. About 500 legends are related to the pilgrimage and to his personality.
This concerns a pilgrimage. Stay the night and pray.
Of course it is a pilgrimage, but it is also a matter of respect. He continues by saying this, Ausul Kiyas. Next we have Gaib Eren Kuruk Shulten, a notion based on the souls of saints and heroes. Following that are ideas like there are countless Babs in Sairam, many Babs in Turkestan, and the largest Bab is Arystan Bab. If not, we may state something like Muhammad in Medina, Khoja Ahmet in Turkestan, Bir Biket in Mangistau. These are all expressions of our Muslim religious awareness or our Muslim identity. Indeed, its meanings as well. However, all of this is only a part of our tasawwuf viewpoint. Using today's scientific terminology and understanding, we must re-explain, identify, and comprehend them. Examining the legends of surrounding Yassawi, we find that Diwani Hikmet, Kazini's Jawahir ul-Abra, and Sairami's writings all include a wealth of authentic information concerning Arystan Bab. Such facts as that he studied 33 different religions, information indicating that he traveled a lot. He adopted Islam because he was not delighted with any of them.
Then it's proved that he was Rumi.
Indeed, legends have claimed that Rumi turned into an Arystan Bab.
Had he tamed the lion?
Жоқ, Арслан баб деген атаудың
No, there are several variations on the origin of the name Arystan Bab. One of them claims that he was riding a lion. Sher is another word that may mean lion. The name Sher came from Hazrat Ali's name and symbols. Shias have a lion as their emblem. Barthold wrote about the Kaisania Mubayyidia, where Mubayyatun refers to people dressed in white. They were known as Kaisanites. It emerged later. There was a Umayyad Caliphate that lasted from 661 to 749. The Abbasids ruled from 749 to 1258. The most notable event during the dynastic transition was the split of the population between Ahl al-Bayt, those who supported Ali, and his heirs, and those who attacked Hazrat Ali. People were split between those who supported the government and those who supported Hazrat Ali, or Ahl al-Bayt. The Arystan Bab was mentioned as having participated in those events after that. Imam Ahzam Abu Hanifa seems to be supporting Ahl al-Bayt. He was imprisoned by the Umayyad ruler because he backed Ahl al-Bayt. When the Abbasids came to power, Imam Ahzam was set free. However, Imam Ahzam also disagreed with them. He was returned to the dungeon where he died. Regarding these occurrences, we are informed that the Shia, particularly the descendants of Imam Ahzam and Hazrat Ali, fled to Kazakhstan. Among them was Ishaq Bab. Ishaq Bab was described as a direct descendant of Hazrat Ali. Following Fatima, Hazrat Ali wed al-Hanafiya. Subsequently, Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya was born. Ishaq Bab was one of the descendants of Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya. In the name of Ishaq Bab at-Turki, the word at-Turki alludes to the fact that he arrived in our region, having escaped to this place after the Umayyad-Abbasid conflict. This occurred during the Samanid period. Arystan Bab shared the same history.
Assuming Ishaq Bab was Arab, does this imply Arystan Bab was an Arab as well? Rumi, as previously noted, was from Rum or Anatolia. Salman Farisi was a Persian.
Here is a particular issue to consider. The Islamization process was not chaotic. It was a systematic process. It was not just Kazakhs who converted to Islam. According to modern terminology, Uzbeks, Kyrgyz, Tajiks, and Turks have all converted to Islam. Comparing all of these countries reveals that Islamization occurs on a systemic level. There was no religious leadership center that was unrelated to Hazrat Ali's family. They were in communication with Hazrat Ali's descendants, whether they were in Turkey or among Kazakhs and Uzbeks. It has the name Sisilatus Zahab or Golden Chain. It was linked to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya. For example, this is linked to Hassan and Hussein. Shias frequently split their descendants into Sayyids and Sharifs. This is a typology as well. On the one hand, though, we do not dispute with the Sayyids once they reach our lands. There were generations of Muhammad al-Hanafiya after his 3 sons. Here, Hazrat Yassawi is referred to as Hazrat. Ibrahim's son, Hazrat Sultan, is the 7th generation of Ishaq Bab.
Direct descendant?
Direct descendant. According to the genealogy, Arystan Bab is also a descendant of Ishaq Bab.
It is reported that Ishaq Bab was a relative to.
They all came from the same family, in the same genealogy. Arystan Bab is shown. Mansur Ata, the son of Arystan Bab, was Khoja Ahmet Yassawi'S student and grandson after that. Yassawi's Mirat ul-Qulub states that Danishmendi was a peer and friend of Mansur Ata. Muhammad Danishmendi and Mansur Ata lived during the same time period. You see, by using these kinds of works, we are steadily placing these people in the context of their historical era.
So you order them by the period in which they lived.
Yes, they lived in the same time period. There once was a big assembly. Dashmendi asked Khoja Ahmet Yassawi a question during that meeting. Muhammad Dashmendi as Zarnuhi was Khoja Ahmet Yassawi's nephew. In one sense, he was the primary inspiration for the composition of the aforementioned work, Mirat ul-Qulub.
соны бізге жазып қалдырсаңызшы, айтыңыз деп. Мансур ата да сол жерде дейді да. Мұстақим бір жиналыста деп.
This is great wisdom. Please write it down for us, he said. Mansur Ata was also present there. This gathering was described as Mustaqin. Yassawi then starts writing the piece. After writing Ahmed Yassawi at the top, more names came next. Thus the work Mirat ul-Qulub was produced. This is how he wrote the names of everyone who was seated there. We may thus conclude that they were both contemporaneous. That allows us to draw certain conclusions. Thus, it goes without saying that Arystan Bab was a significant man, an axiologically comprehensive personality and a highly prevalent value in our Central Asian region. Everyone respects him as he is personally linked to Yassawi. I examined all genealogies and manuscripts in Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan. Arystan Bab is widely recognized as the Bab of Babs, the saint of saints. Another name for him was Buzuruk, which means great. He mentioned Ahmed Yassawi and offered him dates. You questioned me, is that true? Obviously, date fruit was the blessing that was transmitted. Yassawi is often referred to as Ahmadu Sani, which means the second Muhammad, because he personally continued the path set by our Prophet. The Salafis refute this idea, saying that the Prophet is superior to everyone else. Indeed, we will not raise him to that status. Was he acting as the second Muhammad? Yes, we may say so. Following in his footsteps, he continued his work and shared his teachings. Our Prophet was followed by 4 caliphs. Yassawi too only had 4 students. At that moment, 99,000 students had spread from these 4 followers. Everything in Kubrawiya was the same. Kubrawiya only had 4 students as well. Additionally, there were just 4 students in Naqshbandi. For what reason is this the case? There is a phenomenon called tariqa. This phenomenon sustains our Prophet's life path in its entirety. If a Prophet is blessed, then that blessing should only pass through 4 people, no more.
As stated differently, one of the 4 will take on this role under genuine Sharia. It is correct?
Яғни 4 орынбасар болу керек әрбір шейхтің, пірдің. Тариқат негізі солай шаблонда. Қызық енді бұл қарай алсаңыз.
When that position becomes available, they swap and take his place. That is, each sheikh and peer should have 4 subordinates. This is the historical pattern. We are mostly unable to determine and validate Arystan Bab's personality from the material that has come to light thus far. However, he remains alive in the minds of people. He is the central figure in our Muslim Turkic Islamic civilization. The Diwani Hikmet is the legacy of Khoja Ahmet Yassawi. Everything said in that Diwani Hikmet. There is also the date palm's symbolism. After then, presenting dates, being given 400 years of life and having direct contact with the Prophet are all legends. However, Ilahiyya, which stands for divinity, is its primary fact. That is the manifestation of the Prophet's legacy of science and wisdom. We refer to all of these as templates in our language and mentality.
How can we explain the expression, go to the Arystan Bab and stay one night, then go to the Khoja Ahmet Yassawi and pray, in simple terms?
There is a legend about the bull. Amir Temir was a representative of one of the tariqas. Being brought up in the tariqa from a young age, he held a great deal of respect for Khoja Ahmet Yassawi. Later, when he gained power and had the chance, he constructed these buildings and restored Yassawi's ancient tomb. There is also a reality presented by a mythology that was prevalent at the time the tomb was built. The tomb was erected by Amir Temir. While the builders were taking a break from their hard day's work, the building collapsed during the night. All of the recently installed bricks had collapsed when the laborers woke up in the morning. The wall fell again the day after they rebuilt everything. As a result, they tried to watch what happened at night and saw a bull came in the middle of the night and destroyed every brick in that wall. They were later given a revelation. The spirit of Arystan Bab sent this bull. Because teachers must receive honors before students, so Amir Temir went and built the tomb of Arystan Bab first.
Are you referring to that present-day mausoleum?
Жалпы Әмір Темірдің өзі, Әмір Темір біз дұрыс бағалай алмай жатырмыз.
Yes, taking everything into account, we are unable to fairly evaluate Amir Timur. First and foremost, Amir Timur built about 200 mosques, madrasas, caravanserais, libraries and other buildings throughout the Great Turkestan or Central Asia to promote Islamic culture. No one else had ever done it before. Think about Amir Timur's period.
Күйеу деген мағынада, бірақ ол шын мәнінде барласып орнашқан өзіміздің мұсылман. Жүрегі жаңа Алланың махаббатымен толған адам осы тілкі істеп кетті. Яссауиге де, Арыстан Бабқа да, барлығына. Мына Ысқақ Баб, Ысқақ деп жатсың ғой. Бүкіл ғимаратта соны салған.
In addition, he was referred to as Guragan, which means Genghis Khan's son-in-law. But in actuality, he was a member of the Barlas tribe. He was a Muslim, full of God's love. There were the things he had done. He constructed many buildings for Arystan Bab, Yassawi and other people. Here we witness unity and mutual respect between the teacher and student. Khoja Ahmet Yassawi himself admitted that Arystan Bab was his first teacher. We think that at the time everyone in the country said these phrases as a way of paying respect to his teacher. Later on, the pilgrimage mechanism and subsequently the pilgrimage rules start to take shape. How should people go on a pilgrimage? For instance, Bukhar Jarrao paid this location a visit. Historical pilgrimages included those made by Ablai Khan and Qazdost Qazibek. In case you're curious, Qazibek B, the B of the Middle Juz from Arghan tribe, was buried here. This is due to the fact that this location is Asitani Saadet. Here lay the remains of 24 to 28 Khans. There were also over 200 well-known Kazakhs buried here. They all wanted to be near Yassawi. It's all right. Anyway, Asitani, the sentry, was related to Yassawi. However, Arystan Bab should not be ignored because he is the guy who raised Yassawi's personal status. He is essentially telling us to stay overnight and pray. Some would like to split it in half and explain it dialectically, deliberately breaking their unity. One may argue that the legend itself had a significant impact on our perception of the past. A strong bond existed between the instructor and the pupils. We have to state that there was no disagreement. Thus, as some claim, your wishes won't be accepted if you don't stay the night at the Arystan Bab and if you don't pray after that. Not in the sense that you may think. They are to blame for creating the issue. Here we clarify that this is only a show of respect for Yassawi and his teacher.
Thank you so much for the information you provided today. A person's not truly dead. Realize, in this world of deceit and lies, wealth, talent, sustenance, all a gift. Just say Allah, tears might fall from your eyes. Restless, heart seek a cure for love's disease. Be aware the fake, both inside and out, if you please. Victories await those with a clear conscience, dear. Only God can snooze a lover's pain sincere.